Have you ever held a rifle that smells like gun oil, camp smoke, and somebody's childhood? That's the feeling we chase today. We're not hunting the newest gadget. We're honoring rifles that outlast trends, marriages, and manufacturing runs. These are the guns that keep showing up at porch shoots, county fairs, and museum basements that still know how to hit paper. Some of these rifles were handed down with a warning and a grin. Others were engineered so solidly that decades of grit just add character. They don't beg for optics or rails. They want a box of .22 long rifle and a target the size of a coffee can. They're practical, stubborn, and quietly righteous. First up on our list is the old workhorse, the Remington 5.52. Don't let the plain looks fool you. This little semi-automatic feeds 3 common types of .22 and holds 15 rounds. Its simple blowback action means fewer surprises and easier field stripping for cleaning. You'll find one with a scuffed walnut stock and a patched sling, and it will still run happy through a weekend of plinking. Pros are straightforward: approachable trigger feel, decent magazine capacity, and parts that still turn up. Cons are the same as the life it's had: worn extractors or surface rust on older examples. If you want a dependable teacher's rifle for the yard, this is the model to find. It prefers uptime over flash, and it rewards basic maintenance. Then there's the match grade freak that hogs the podium, the Onshoot's 54. Built to be surgical in the hands of a disciplined shooter, this bolt action sings when it's on the bag. Think heavy barrel, bedded stock, and a trigger you can trim down to a whisper. Born from European target traditions and refined across decades, the 54 exists to punish sloppy fundamentals and reward precision. It's expensive and picky about ammunition, but boy does it shoot. This is the rifle that teaches you how small a group can be and why you should care. Next, don't sleep on the blue-collar champion, the Savage Mark II. Affordable, durable, and surprisingly accurate out of the box, it bridges the gap between entry-level and performance. The ACU trigger is crisp, barrels come in standard and heavy profiles, and the platform tolerates rough use. Magazines on budget variants can be finicky, and the truly obsessive target shooter will still choose a dedicated match bolt. But for most shooters, the Mark II is the rifle that grows with you. It's useful, repairable, and doesn't demand fancy treatment. Finally, in this opening salvo, picture the grandfather in the workshop, the Winchester 9.422, a lever-action .22 that carries heritage on its back and modern refinements in its guts. Comfortable to handle, tuned for practical accuracy, and finished to resist a life outside the safe. It's the rifle collectors admire and hunters still use. It won't top a bench rest podium, but it will run all day on common .22 loads and make mornings in the woods feel like they always have. Which one of these would you reach for when the sun first breaks and the coffee is still hot? There are rifles that show up to work without a resume and still out-earn every flashy hire. That's the category we're digging into now. Start with the one you'll probably find under your uncle's workbench, the Marlin Model 60. This semi-automatic eats .22 long rifle like it was born to do it. With a 14-round tubular magazine and a micro groove barrel, the Model 60 isn't sexy, it's ubiquitous. Over 11 million produced means parts, advice, and aftermarket barrels are never far away. It shoots bulk .22 without complaining, and for plinking, pest control, and first rifles, it's the definition of practical. Triggers can be soft, and the loading gate begs for patience. But when your priority is uptime and simplicity, the Model 60 wins. Then imagine handing a rifle down with a wink, and the words, "Treat this one right." That's the Remington Model 121, a pump-action .22 that carried families through decades. Made from 1936 to 1954, its takedown design and smooth action made lessons happen without drama. It's the rifle you hand a nervous kid and watch confidence form. Wear on the stock only adds to the story. Functionally, it cycles .22 short, long, and long rifle reliably and points like it already knows the target. If you find one at a swap meet, buy it. You're not just getting metal and wood, you're getting a storyteller. Slide back to the showman, the Winchester Model 62. Octagon barrel, pump action, and the kind of slam-fire charm that once filled carnival stalls and county fair galleries. Built during the mid-century, The Model 62 carries a tubular magazine that swallows 20-plus rounds of 22 short. It's not a bench rest champion, it's a performer. You cycle the forend and you feel the history in the mechanical snap. Parts wear, sure, and optics weren't front of mind when it left the factory. But for rapid, joyful shooting and storytelling on the porch, few rifles match its grin. Now meet the platform that rewired the aftermarket, the Ruger 10/22. Introduced in 1964, this semi-automatic platform is the Swiss Army knife of rimfires. 10-round rotary magazine, blowback action, and an ecosystem of upgrades that runs from takedown models to tactical builds. It doesn't just perform, it adapts. Swap a barrel, change the stock, drop in a chassis, and suddenly your humble rimfire is a custom project that still won't argue at the range. It's forgiving, modular, and indestructible enough to be a family legacy if you let it. Next, for the wood and craft purists, the Browning SA-22 stands apart. A takedown, bottom eject semi-auto with a tube magazine in the buttstock, it feels more like a fine timepiece than a mass-produced gun. The machining is whisper smooth, the balance is impeccable, and you'll catch yourself admiring the grain before you aim. It's precise enough for coyotes, and elegant enough to inherit. The downside? Good ones get talked about in hushed tones, and your wallet notices. Finish this set with the lever action workhorse, the Marlin Model. 39A. Built like a bank vault and designed to be taken apart with a coin, this takedown lever gun is the kind of thing that survives decades in a quilt in the attic, and then runs like it was stored yesterday. It doesn't care about brand of ammo or a little surface rust. Pull the lever, and it smiles. These rifles aren't museum curios. They're tools, teachers, and companions that earned their place by outlasting trends and stubbornly doing their job. These rifles didn't survive by accident. They were engineered to be forgiven, fixed, and fielded for decades. That's the real secret. You can polish a marketing campaign, but you can't fake metallurgy, simple mechanisms, or a design that a 12-year-old can strip with a screwdriver and a handful of patience. Let's talk anatomy. A heavy, well-contoured barrel that resists harmonics matters. A straightforward blowback or hardened lugged bolt that can be tuned by hand matters. Magazine designs that aren't picky about rim dimensions matter. And simple, accessible extractors and firing pins that can be replaced from a parts bin matter, most of all. When you combine those traits with an honest trigger and a stock that won't split the first time it gets knocked off a tailgate, you get a rifle that people stop apologizing for and start relying on. Maintenance folklore plays a role too. Owners of old Remington and Marlin rimfires tell near-identical stories. A Christmas morning passed down through generations. A leaning workbench where oil drips in slow, respectful circles. A file box labeled parts that's somehow always full. That ritual, clean, lightly oil, swap a worn part, fire for function, is a cultural habit that keeps these guns alive far beyond their serial number lifespan. Buying advice you actually need. Don't chase factory bluing unless you're building a safe queen. Prioritize mechanical condition. Look for a straight bore, a functioning safety, and a magazine that feeds without hesitation. A smooth action is worth more than shiny metal. If you see a Remington 5.52, a Marlin 39A, or a Ruger 10/22 with minor surface rust but crisp internals, you've found gold. Parts for these platforms still float in the market because millions were made and millions were loved. That's practical redundancy built into supply chains long after companies changed hands. Then there's adaptability. The Ruger 10/22 ecosystem turned upgradability into an art form, letting one rifle live multiple lives. A takedown for hiking, a bench gun for groups, a tactical training aid for defensive drills. The Browning SA-22 and Remington Model 121 teach another lesson. Elegance aids longevity. A rifle someone admires tends to get cared for. Wood gets refinished, screws get tightened, and the owners notice wear before it becomes fatal. Cultural. Resonance shouldn't be underestimated. A rifle that taught a family to hunt, a police academy to instruct, or a scout troop to respect firearms safety becomes a touchstone. That emotional investment means more hands willing to keep it in service. It's why you'll find Marlin takedowns at farm auctions and Winchester lever guns with initials carved into the stock. They are heirlooms that still shoot.